Okay, so I just want to quickly show off this observer component because it's really hard to document, being that it's totally invisible. So, basic idea: the observer, it's a component that emits two events. You see these down here. One, appear, which emits when the element appears on the page, and then disappear, which emits when the element disappears from the page. Now these only get fired once, at the moment it appears and the moment it disappears. It's not like it constantly fires these events, so it's not too noisy. But to show that here, I've got there's an observer here somewhere. You can't see it because, as I said, it's invisible, but it's like kind of just here, just under this line. And when it's in view, it says the observer is in view, and this line goes green. This is just a daft demo, it's not useful at all, but you can see when it's not in view, there we go, the observer is not in view, it's not in view, and that line, you can see it's not green, and then as soon as it scrolls into view, it's green, out of view. So that's basically how the observer works, and to kind of show it a little better, we can put in put some eyes in there. So then the observer is not invisible anymore. It's literally when you can see these eyes, any part of these eyes. So there's maybe a pixel of them eyes in view there. When you can see them, it's in view. And when you can't, it's not in view. Nice and simple. Now, obviously this example is a load of rubbish, but it kind of shows it off quite well. So two more, I'll start with infinite scrolling actually. No, I'll start with lazy loaded image. So this is a slightly better example, a more common use case one. Lazy loading images. So you can imagine we have an image on a page that has either a placeholder or a really low resolution version of that image or something, and then as soon as that image becomes visible on the page, it'll load in the appropriate image. We've done this all over before, it's not new, but what this observer lets us do, if I scroll to there we are, so I can just drop this image inside an observer. I've hooked it into disappear here so I can show what it does, but the only thing you really need to worry about is this appear. So as soon as it appears on the page, we fire the appear method, which in this case just sets this dot is in view to true, and then for the image URL on this image, we just say if it is in view, get this GIF. If it's not in view, then we load in another image. But you can see how this could be a high resolution one, this could be a low resolution one, or could even be a fallback or whatever, it doesn't matter. Now this one is a little trickier to show, so it loads this GIF when it's in view, and it loads a different picture when it's not in view. But because it's not in view, you can't actually see that. So if we inspect, we'll see it change here. So we've got this GIF, and then as soon as it goes out of view, you see it changed, and now we've got this image, and when it comes back into view, it changes back. Now again, you wouldn't want to be swapping it every time it goes out of view, but for this demo it's just an easier way of showing how it all works. And if you don't want to disappear it, you just remove this disappear event and only listen to the appear. So that's one example. Another good example is infinite scrolling. So this is slightly different. For this one, I have a list that just loops through a load of items, but instead of wrapping the list in the observer, I've put at the bottom of the list this little observer, so that every time we reach the bottom of the list, this observer comes into view, and we fetch more items, which then pushes it back out of view. So it'll keep fetching as many items as it needs to until it loads off the page. So we're loading it 10 at a time here. This is a fallback, but I'll more on that later. So you can see item 1 through 10 loaded initially, and then as soon as we loaded the page, the observer kicked in. So we got item 11 through 20, but the observer was still on the page, so we got 21. But we keep going and going and going, and it's infinite, and every now and again you do see a flash of that observer. You see more the faster you scroll, but that's a basic idea, and this will keep going until we get down to like 1,000. I've set the limit to, but you get the general idea. This infinite scrolling is really easy to set up with this observer component. Now, just in case the observer doesn't work, whether that's because the browser doesn't support it or some other weird quirk stops it from working, we have put in this fallback button. So when you click that button, you just call that exact same action to fetch more items. So the experience is still there. You could load at the bottom of the list, click the button, load at the bottom of the list, click the button. It doesn't matter if you don't support the observer or not. So we can actually break the observer by just really quickly scrolling at the bottom of the page so it doesn't actually register that it ever appeared, and then creeping up on it. There it is. So we can see our fallback. We've hit item 680 and stopped, and we get this fetch more items button. And you just click it, and we fetch more items, and then carrying on scrolling, it carries on with that observer behavior. So that's a nice way of adding a quick and easy fallback to the thing if the observer doesn't particularly work. One last example. Let's see if I can get to 1,000 and show you it. There we go. So we hit 1,000, we carry on. This is last appeared at. Now all this does, it's just a simple component that says how many seconds ago it's been since it last appeared on the page. So it was 12 seconds ago in this case, but if we scroll it off the page and then come back down, it resets the timer. And that works by where are we? Okay, so we've got the observer, we've got our appear and disappear set up, and last appeared second since appearance. And when we appear, we clear out any previous intervals, we set a new interval, this dot tick 1,000, so every second it ticks, and then we trigger that initially, and then we say it appeared at this dot now, which is just the current date and time. Then when we disappear, we just clear that interval. So you can see if I do a console log of tick, jump across to the console, I'll go into this one so I don't need to scroll so far. There we go, it's on the page, it's ticking, tick, 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 and as soon as it disappears off, I can't scroll far enough, as soon as it disappears off the page, that ticking stops, and we bring it back in, and the ticking starts up again. So you can see how this is super helpful for like performance things where it's not massively expensive, this set interval, but you can see how if we had hundreds of these on the page, like that ticking time ago thing that we used to have, we can tell them, okay, when you're on the page, keep ticking, but as soon as you're off the page, we can't see you, so we don't need you to update anymore. Just go to sleep, and then when we come back, carry on. You can do this for all sorts of things. You can do this for event listeners and things. So when the element's off the page, remove the event listeners. When it comes back on the page, re-add the event listeners, and this would be a massive performance improvement for a few things. So yeah, it's a simple component, but it has a lot of uses. It can be quite powerful if used in the right places, and it's amazing for performance, because we only need to load things or do things or calculate things when something's on the screen, and we can say when you're on the screen do it, when you're off the screen don't, and it's as simple as that really.